This is the Amazon 1 month overview reading for the month of January 2024. It's currently November 21st, 2023, 2:43 p.m. Eastern Time. Amazon at the time of this reading is currently $143.10. That's USD. And the shuffle video we're going to play for you in just a moment here was created on October 25th, 2023 at 1:59 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video here in the corner. So the overall theme and behavior for Amazon in January, the fortune card as a theme card can indicate quite a few different things. From a standpoint of the theme card, it probably means a bit of like swinging back and forth. It could also be indicating a highest high. My sense is that it's not a highest high, it's more of a back and forth, and there's probably a reversal in here that's really going to stand out amongst other reversals on like a 1-year chart scale. It's crossed with a period of volatility and a sharp drop that stands out in that period of volatility. Behavior around the highest high, we have a lot of volatility moving into and out of the high, a lot of price change to move into the high, but volatility, like erratic back and forth behavior as we move in one direction, probably to the upside. And then behavior around the low, the change card in the low position could indicate that we see the low twice, but really what's going on with the change card is that you have equal amounts of bulls and bears inflow and outflow. So you see price swings, but they're like equal, they kind of like cancel each other out in a lot of cases, and you end up pretty much moving just sideways flat. It's not flat though, it's like swings, but you end up flat for the day or something like that, you know. That goes well with the story of the fortune card being about price swinging. Before we go any further, though, I want to make sure everybody's aware the whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. You do so here on the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, where you should be following the rule of karma. So there's a rule of karma for the channel, and it's really the unwritten agreement between the universe and those of you utilizing this information for profit. In order to continue profiting, you must show the universe that you mean to do well, do good things with this money. It should not be just about you. If it's just about you, the universe will shut you off like that. All right, I'm just telling you. So make sure that you include helping other people in your wealth creation, and you should be good. And this guarantees that. So 5% of the profits of each profitable trade should be donated forward to one of these charities here. Just click on a link and donate. Super easy, and you're in essence transmuting competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill, making the world a better place. Be a part of the cure for cancer. And then 5% of the profit should be donated back to the channel here through one of these links. That helps support the channel, says thank you, and it keeps the gratitude mentality, which is necessary for manifesting more wealth. So that leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe is going to send it back to you tenfold for being an angel investor. Let's get back into it. It's important to understand that when you're reading one of these 1 months, each of these cards going across, they're numbered. These are the dates. They each represent a day, and that's the date that they represent, right? But what you need to understand is that not each card's energy is going to line up perfectly with one day of time. So you have to allow for a little bit of wiggle room. The sequence of events remains accurate even when timing varies a little bit. For the most of these readings, the timing will be on point, like miraculously on point, but there are cases where we're off a little bit. So give it a plus or minus one day wiggle room. Trade responsibly if you plan to trade with this information, because we are not right all the time. So okay, so we have off on the first for the new year, and then on the second there's an important range that's highlighted on a 1 month chart scale minimum, and there's also a reversal there as indicated by the orange highlight. A prominent peak. I'm seeing a prominent peak here on around like the second and the third on a lot of January readings, and I'm seeing it here as well. Here, a prominent peak on the cusp of the second, third, and then maybe again in the morning on the third. But a pretty notable drop from that peak on the third, creating a trough either on the third or continuing into the fourth to create a trough. And a lot of price change between the third and the fourth, fifth, right? We go from like this trough that's either on the third, we go from a peak on the cusp of the second, third into a trough on the third or fourth. On the fourth, we also should see a prominent peak, so we'll attempt to establish support at a prominent peak. And then it looks like we decline further with a sharp drop midday on the fifth, and overall like a decline increasing with momentum moving forward throughout the day into that low. And then there's a resistance, like a minor peak that'll stand out towards the end of the day on the fifth at a key resistance. On the 8th, we open higher, and then there's a big move to the upside that'll really stand out on a 1 month chart scale minimum. There's a trade opportunity there between the 5th and the 8th. I'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. And there's a prominent peak here on the 8th as well that'll stand out on a 1 month chart. On the 9th, brief peak that's easily missed, followed by a decline through multiple support levels. I think that brief peak is probably created there on the 8th, and we decline off of that. It's brief, and we decline off of it into the 9th, where we should see prominent troughs. A lot of volatility on the 10th, and a fast sudden move higher marking the end of that volatility. A notable move higher starting at the beginning of the day on the 11th. We move through resistance, we stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through the same price level shortly thereafter. Continue with sideways rotation on the 12th. That sideways rotation ends with a fast sudden move higher. It actually looks like we have a sharp drop at the end of the day to a trough there on the 12th. And that fast sudden move higher is probably over the holiday, because we have Martin Luther King Day off here on the 15th. There's either a big move higher right at the start of the day on the 16th, or there's a big move over the weekend, or over the holiday, I should say. On the 16th, we successfully turn resistance relevant on a 1 month chart scale into new support, and we rally on the 17th along a diagonal trend line. About midday, there's a big move higher, a breakout even, and then we turn around and we decline through that diagonal trend line with increasing volatility on the way down. So we create a peak there on the 17th, and then there's a prominent reversal taking us into a significant trough on the cusp of the 17th to 18th, probably on the 18th. Multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance on the 19th, probably a higher open on the 22nd, but in either case, there's a fast sudden move higher on a 1 month chart scale on the 22nd, and a peak early in the day, that prominent peak that'll stand out. We decline from that prominent peak. It's possible that we have another prominent peak early in the day on the 23rd. It's hard to say. It's either we're declining from that, or we're declining from the peak from the 22nd. Hard to say, but we decline pretty notably on the 23rd into the 24th, where we had some sideways rotation, establishing support, and then a big move higher standing out on a one month chart scale. another peak midday on the 25th, and this will be at a resistance level that's relatively important on a 1-month chart scale, and you'll see that price action will kind of like flatten out around that resistance, and then we'll have bumping along resistance sideways, maybe breaking through resistance, bumping along resistance, breaking through resistance on the 26th, kind of going on there. On the 26th, we have another prominent peak and a prominent trough. It looks like the prominent trough's either at the end of the day on the 26th or it's at the beginning of the day on the 29th. Hard to say, but there's also a prominent peak in there on the 29th, and we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance and then decline through key support, taking us into another prominent trough in the morning on the 30th. There'll be 3 pokes through the same price level, followed by a sharp drop on the 30th. We'll probably open higher on the 31st and then decline again from like a peak early, late morning session, decline from a peak there. Pretty notable decline early in the morning on the 31st, but the 31st we declined to revisit a support level that was recently visited once before. It's probably like support from like around the 23rd, 24th, or over here on the 17th to 18th. We'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. Let's take a look and see how we're doing for November thus far. So I did the same thing on this reading that I did on a lot of the November readings. I saw the low on the 3rd, and it ended up being on the 1st in almost all cases, so I was off a couple of days there. Not my best work. Occasionally I'm off by 2 days, but most of the time I'm right on, and then sometimes it's plus or minus a day. Very rarely do we see plus 2 days, but it happens. In any case, I still got the low at the beginning of the month and the highs towards the end of the month, right? We have a high on the 8th, 9th. You can see here on the 8th, right? And then we have a little bit of a decline, and then we move back to highs around the 14th, 15th, right? A prominent peak, and then another prominent trough on the 16th, as indicated here on the cusp of the 15th, 16th. Another prominent peak on the 17th. And then it looks like we'll be in higher price levels on the 22nd tomorrow, and probably on the 24th, and that's where we'll probably establish the highest high for the month of November. But this is looking like a pretty solid reading, guys. So if you're interested in getting the information of the paid version for the January Amazon reading, what you get in the paid version, guys, is where the highest high is, where the lowest low is, the best trades, what type of chart behavior to look for entry and exit in those trades, any price level information, cross-reading congruency information, trades relevant from a multi-year and a multi-month standpoint, and its performance in relation to the S&P 500 for the month of January. That's all in the paid version. It's a really great way to support the channel. And remember, I recognize the names of everybody that subscribes for the paid subscription monthly. Hover over our services on our website, Terror for Traders. Click on SO Meta Posts. Scroll down to monthly subscription. Click here to order. For the Amazon, the only way to get the Amazon, you have to get the 30 days access to all paid monthlies. But what the good news is that gives you access to all of these tickers and crypto symbols to the monthly paid version of them. Not to mention, you also get Amazon, Google, and Nvidia. And the only way to get access to the paid version of those is through the all paid monthly. So you would click here. Most popular subscription on our channel. Again, I remember everybody's name that does that because you guys are really the core foundation of support for the channel. Big part of what happens here at Terror for Traders. So thank you to everybody that does it, and let's get back into it. Okay, so there's a pretty sharp drop. We might see another high here on the 11th. I don't think it's a high, but I think it'll be close. It'll be a prominent peak, and we sell off from it pretty notably. Or it may be that we sell off all the way from this peak on the 9th into the 11th. It's hard to say, but in any case, that's the Amazon for January 2024. Let me know what you think by hitting that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It really helps out the channel. Most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma. The universe is counting on you. I'm counting on you. Your own karma is counting on you. Blessings to all my angel investors out there. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned if you got the paid version.